Ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to Derico Technology Company Limited. My name is Ejejima Isaac, and today I'll be very glad and honored to talk about the most pressing need that the world is facing. It has become a challenge over the years. Majority of people who have made some plans, who have invested a lot in estates as well as in building a residence for them to stay in, have always had this challenge when it comes to electricity. And as we all know, electricity has become a vital part of our current world. We easily forget how dangerous electricity is, and in many instances, it can cause death and serious damages to human. Let me first start with Charles Dasdell, who was an inventor in bringing ground fault circuit interrupter. Now, this ground fault circuit interrupter was an inventor that Professor Charles Dasdell brought in the aim of eliminating electrical shock and safeguarding people in their various homes and in their various workplaces. Through this experiment, he made several discoveries about the nature of electrical injury. And because of the voltage or because of the harm that people face when it comes to electricity, he made sure that he bring out a device that will, in a way, one way or the other, protect us from these things. But based on that, he proposed the use of device that cuts off electrical power when it detects the difference between the hot and the neutral wire of current, indicating that there are some current that divert to another part, that's on unintended part, such as a person. And when this contact comes, it can severely cause serious damage to human. Now, we are going to look at how this innovations works. The GFCI, which is the ground fault circuit interrupter, sends a difference in the amount of electricity flowing into the circuit within 1.10 seconds. Now, we realize that this was done around 1960s thereabout. With this ground fault circuit interrupter, we still have incidents that has occurred that shows that with the help of this GFCI, people still face electrocution, people still face electrical shock, people's lives are still in danger when it comes to electricity. If you check 2016, you will see that an Alabama teenager, he died from electrical shock while swimming in Smith Lake. And in 2012, two boys, 10 and 11 years of age, died after being electrocuted. And in 2017 also, a 10-year-old girl was electrocuted while swimming and rafting in a lagoon near his family new home, Jason. Now in 2017 also, 3 Boy Scouts were electrocuted when a 30-foot mast of catamaran were sailing on the sea. 2017 also, we also experienced 2 women who died through electrical shock. 2020 also, we still have this same electrocution. Now what this means is that these investors, what they brought was a reactive measure or a reactive device. They react when an incident has already happened. And you can see that we have been experiencing these cases up to this time. Today, Electrical Safety Authority made an emphasis on what happens when people faces electrocution. They say on average, more than 110 kids under 15 end up in emergency in Ontario because of electrical injury. So the statistics speaks for itself that majority of people, both aged, who come in contact with electricity barely survive. Now, they also draws up a 4-decade electrical injury and fatality by Christopher Koch. Now he was explaining that based on this 4 decades, electricity or the electrical exposure that has caused fatalities and injuries has decreased systematically. And on that, we are going to see how he explains it. Now, the electricity, the first century that we will talk about is the 1980. Now, from 1980 to 1990, from 1990 to 2000, from 2000 to 2010, from 2010 to 2020, we find out that the level of injuries that people have had has been halved from 582 to 310 from that decade. Now, from 1990 to 2000, it ranges from 310 to 164. Now, also from 2000 to 2010, it has also comes from 164 to 126. And now, the percentage at which people face this has decreased from 8% from 1980 to 3% in 2020. And as such, the Wilco Technology Company have had the solution that the whole world need, and in spite of that, has created a device called Spid-Dar sensor, and which device is the hallmark of the solution that we need as far as electrocution, electrical shock, fatal injuries are concerned. Today, our mission right here is for the world to know what impact Spid-Dar sensor will give to us as a whole, and to reduce the percentage from 3% to 0%. Thus, preventing all fatal injuries or those that comes in contact with electricity. Now, the Spid-Dar sensor has its roles that it plays. It has 15 roles that help us to be able to combat this electrocution that we face or the electrical challenges of our time. Now, we will start with prevention of electrocution. So one thing that the Spid-Dar sensor does is to prevent electrocution. Now, electrocution is a term used to describe when electric shock results in the death or severe injury of mankind. Now, it occurs when people comes in contact with electricity, and this contact can either be severe or this contact can result in the death of a person. Now, the severity of this shock depends on factors such as the amount of current flowing in the circuit, and also the duration of the exposure, and the path of the current flowing through the body is also a key part of the electric shock injury. Now, if the electric current passes through the chest, for example, it can cause cardiac arrest. So people who are facing these injuries, they barely survive, and it has so many effects on the body. Some of the effects that electric shock can provide to us or can cause harm to us is internal damage, cardiac arrest, and so on and so forth. Some also have damage to their internal organs, which primarily can have a long time damages on their life. Now, we can see that we are going to talk about the difference of electrical shock on the body. And from the below 1 MA, the MA is the milliampere, which means that the unit measurement of the electrical current. Now, below 1 MA, you see it is not permissible. It means that you will not be able to feel the impact in you. Now, 1 MA means that you can have a feeling of it. Then for the 5 MA, which means a slightly shock, not painful, but average individual who comes in contact with this electric shock can let it go. But from 6.25 MA, you have that painful shock. You lose muscle control, which you will not have that control to be able to let it go. And from 9 to 30 MA, you can't let it go. It's very dangerous. It's very freezing. Now, for the 50 to 150 and also to the 10 MA, you can have severe burns and possibly you can have death. So these are the ranges that electrocution can affect us, and this is what causes that we are able, or the eco technology has brought the spider sensor to cater for that. Then the other aspect of it is also to prevent fire outbreak caused by electricity. We have had instances where markets at various places within this world, workshops have got burnt due to electrical fault, or due to electrical installation, or due to electrical damages, and of which it has caused millions of investors to lose their lives, to lose the amount of money, to lose the investment, and as well as to lose the place that they work. So as part of it, the eco technology finding it rare that some of this fire outbreak is being caused by electricity, and as such, this spider sensor is here to cater for this electrical aspect that causes the fire outbreak. Now, one of the electrical fault that causes the fire outbreak is short circuit. Now, the circuit is the component that shows the flow, the inflow and outflow of electricity. A mistake, or in a case that there is faulty in it, it can ignite fire. Then there is also overheating. Electrical component causing overheating, such as transformers, motors, and circuit breakers, which causes excessive current flow, can also cause fire. And poor electrical installation and maintenance is one of the factors that can also cause fire. But how will we be able to survive this? Because we don't know that there have been a poor installation, because one way or the other, you just go and rent the apartment to start your business. You just go and rent the space for you and your family to reside in. You might not be able to go back and check all this electrical installation. So how will we be able to detect all these things? That's why we need this device to protect us. We need this device to safeguard us, so that in case we have this poor installation, it will be able to save our lives. So the third point is protect the earth from natural disaster. Now, electricity can play a significant role in natural disasters, both positively and negatively. Now, let's talk about some of the positive roles that electricity plays in our lives, or in this natural earth that we live. So one of it is that early warning system, because if there is a siren, we have sirens, we have alarm that always alert us when there is an impending disasters on our way. So it's also a network, a communication tool that also helps us to stay alert. And in times of emergency, it helps us to also respond to communication and also coordinate and respond effectively. Now, when we talk about the negative aspect, we see power outage. So we have hurricanes, we have earthquakes, we have flood. Now, these can cause power outage. And when we as human beings, we are living without the access to essential service such as electricity, it becomes very, very difficult for us to even live our life, because electricity has become vital part of our lives and we can't deal away with that. And as such also, we have electrical hazard, the dangers that it poses to our life. Now, damaged electrical infrastructures can cause harm to this earth that we are living. And as such, the eco technology through the spider sensor is here to cater for that the increasing risks of fire outbreaks that we have, which is also part of the natural disaster, will be mitigated and also will be able to help us. So they also stated ways that we'll be able to prepare ourselves to overcome this natural disaster. But since we don't know, then the best thing we need to do is that we need to find way that will be able to reduce the impact of these natural disasters on electricity, or now on how electrical system can safeguard us to avoid these natural disasters. So we need this device if we want to avoid these natural disasters and also stay on earth without having this impact in our life. Now, the fourth point is it reduces radiation from indirect leaks of current. So we will just ask ourselves, what is radiation? Now, radiation is an energy that moves from one place to another in a form that can be described as what? Waves or particles. Now, their effect on radiations on electrical systems. The electrical property of this solid state changes upon exposure to radiation. Now, the changes of this component perimeter is outside the design range for circuits in which they are used, and these changes can cause circuit to cease proper function. So when we have indirect leaks when the current leaks the intended path that the current needs to pass, then they will pass through a different lane. That unintended path that the current need not to pass, but one way or the other, due to the leakage has passed, can cause radiations, and this radiation has effect in our lives. So it means that we are being exposed to radiation one way or the other because of indirect leaks of current. Now, at a very high dose, these radiation have significant effect negatively on our lives. And one of it is that people start to experience vomiting, skin redness, hair loss, and acute radiation syndromes, and even death. So it means that our health is even affected when we exposure to radiation, and this radiation exposure is being caused by electricity. And as such, this spider sensor is here to help us to be able to eradicate this effect that radiation has on our life. So there are people who are facing these challenges, this vomiting, skin redness, nuisance. They are even having hair loss, and they are having burns on all over their body, or even death. And these are the effects of radiation, of which the spider sensor is here to overcome it. 5. Protect human and animals. Now, virtually every part of our body can be injured through electrical current. We are so much grateful that this device is out. Most people who has little knowledge about electrical appliances, or most people who have little knowledge about electricity, find it very difficult to detect whether there is fault at a particular place, or whether there is a switch that is faulty, that can shock or that can cause harm to their body. Now you see that we are exposed virtually when we come in contact with this electricity. We can have an extent injury which will depend on so many factors, and this can also harm us. Now, people who have experienced cardiac and respiratory arrest, which has become very significant issue or pressing issue in this part that we live. Now, exposure to this is not good for our health, and we can think of the number of people, as I was saying during the introduction, who have lost their life because of this electricity. And now, if you see how many people die from electrocution each year in the United States, statistically they have said that 400 people are electrocuted every year, and over 4,000 faces fatal injuries every year in the United States. So the United States are facing this challenge when it comes to electricity. People are losing their lives as well as animals. Now you can see that the water is a good conductor of electricity. Now and you see ships or the marine system also uses electricity to operate. Over 80 years now they have been using electricity. So in any instance that there is electrical issue on the marine or in the ships, it means that this electrical issue passes its currents through the sea. And when it passes through its current through the sea, means that the fish and aquatic animals within those vicinity is always at a problem. Right? It means that their chances of surviving is very low, because when it comes in contact with electricity, the possibility of them losing their life become very, very easy, because as soon as the electricity touches the water, the chemistry of the water changes. They begin to find a better place that they can stay, and some can even move to the land, which will become very uncomfortable for them. Now, this spider sensor also protects transformers from exploding. In this part of our world, virtually everywhere, majority of our electrical system is being connected to transformer. And now transformers can explode due to various reasons. And here are some of the common reasons that I would like to share with the world. We have, to the electrical causes, we have lightning strike. We can't control lightning. Most times when it rains, it strikes. And direct lightning strike or nearby strike can cause power outage. It can cause harm to the transformers and potentially lead to an explosion. Now, how does this happen? The electrical discharges a current, and that current puts a lot of pressure into the transformer. And when it puts a lot of pressure to the transformer oil ignites with this pressure. And this pressure, which causes overheating, can cause the transformer to explode. And when it explodes, it can also catch fire. And when it catches fire, look at the number of workplaces, the number of residents whose electrical system or electricity is being connected to this transformer. What will happen to them? They will have appliances which will not be able to work. They will face so many electrical challenges, of which this spider sensor is here to take care of. So 7, prevent any leakage of current around any device. Now, device leak current due to unintended path for electricity, often caused by insulation failure, moisture, or component defect, allowing current to flow through unintended path like ground or adjacent component. Now, if there is a leakage of current, what the current does is that it means that they have an unintended path. These are not the path the current needs to flow. They are paths that they are not meant for them to flow. But because they have leaked and they cannot pass through that, they passes through a different path, and which different path can be the ground or adjacent a component. Now, there are some factors that causes this leakage of electricity or leakage of any current around any device. So when a device leaks current, what it does is that it first has to find a way to release this current to the ground. So you can check those that live around. You can check those that have their residents around. When this leak of current happens, how are they going to survive when they come in contact with this electricity? So here are a more detailed explanation. So we have moisture, we have insulation deterioration, and over time, there are electrical conductors who are very good electrical. There are electrical conductors which receive or which helps electricity to pass through in and from. And if this is spoiled or deteriorated, it can also create gaps or currents to leak. Now we will go to it generates high neutral from the ground to protect devices during lightning. Now, from the earlier explanation, we learned that when it comes to lightning, because we don't have a source that will protect them, it always causes fire outbreak, because fire outbreak is also, lightning is also one of the causes of this fire outbreak. Now, a high neutral ground system is needed to protect devices during lightning. So in terms of lightning, or in case of any lightning, we need a high neutral ground system. Now, how does it work? During lightning, a massive electrical surge can travel through the air, water, or the ground. And this electrical surge damages devices and infrastructure. But when you have a high neutral ground system, it safeguards this electrical system and infrastructure. So the spider sensor here contains this high neutral that will be able to protect us when lightning. Now, the 9th point is that highly sensor or detect any danger within a second to create awareness. Now, as I said earlier on, we have electrical installations in our homes that we will not be able to see how dangerous impact it can have in our lives if there are some defects or there are some faults in it. We need a system. We need something that will tell us that no, this part of the electrical system is at fault, and then we need to be able to work on it. On average, in Australia, there are 11 workers that on average that die due to electrocution, and usually, because when we have electrical fault at our home, we find it very difficult to be able to understand, or we find it very difficult to be able to reach it out. So the spider sensor is here, and it gives you an awareness within a second for you to know that there's a particular danger at this side of your electrical system that you need to make sure that you work on it to avoid fire outbreak, to avoid any electrical shock, and to avoid people losing their lives. Now, when it also detects danger from devices, it protects other devices from electrocution or generate fire on the same distribution board. So whilst it is serving as an awareness, creating awareness for you, it is also safeguarding other devices so that it will not be able to generate fire, or to not be able to also spoil, because the electrical system is interconnected. It moves from this side to this side. So one fault at this particular side can also lead for the to also create another fault at the other end. But the spider sensor here is here to help us overcome that. When there is fault at a particular place, it protecting the other devices and other circuit from being exposure to fire or electrocution. It also supports our meter to prevent an increment and unnecessary. Right? So we have people who have always complained about their meter reading, and people who also experience defective meters which are not of high quality, and a broken or a faulty electricity meter, which can also lead to inaccurate reading. So the spider sensor will support this increment and to combat that, so that the meter will read perfectly and at a rate at which it's supposed to read. Then the last part is that it prevents all heat generated by electricity. We know that most times the energy that it produces, the electricity produces, some of them turn into heat energy, and we have heating elements that always convert electrical energy into heat energy. And these are the things that the spider sensor is here to combat, that any heat that the electricity will generate, as far as this spider sensor is concerned, it will prevent all those heat. All those appliances that use electricity will not be able to experience this heat anymore. My dear brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, all over the world, I'm so much glad and happy to have shared with you the spider sensor. And I believe that each and every one of us, to those that are building estates, to those that are building places for people to rent, for people to stay in, authorities which look after electricity, which look after fire protection, we call on all these companies to be able to look into the spider sensor. If only we want to survive, if only we want to eradicate this electrocution from our system. Thank you very much, and I share all these things with you guys. Thank you so much.